Hello, this is Caitlin Gorman, and this is part 2 of my presentation on the best ways to digitalize formative assessments in the classroom. We're going to talk about how to set up an assessment for each of these 5 tools. So for Plickers, we're going to talk about how to set up a class, how to print the answer sheets, and create a question. So once you get logged in, it will come up with your recent. When you're creating a class, you come to the side here, and you can create a new class. You can enter the class name, so say you have a geometry class and you want to enter multiple classes, you can do that as well, and it will create those classes. So then when you go to that class, you can add your students, you can use an Excel spreadsheet and copy and paste, or you can just type them in yourself if you have a small class, but with those larger classes you might want to do an Excel sheet. Then to print the actual cards, you'll go to the Help and Get Plickers cards. The standard or expanded if you have a large group of students, but typically for standard, this is what the card would look like. So it has A, B, C, or D as the options. The students hold up the answer choice at the top, and they are organized by number. So each student is assigned a number when you add students to your roster, and that's the card that they'll get so that it matches up their answer with each student. So if we go back, we can also set up a question. So you would click on New Set. You can click here to create your question. You can also add a picture, or if you don't want to do any of this, just create a blank set where students can answer, and you can just present your question on the board, not even using this. But you do need this part to actually get the data and receive the data and organize the data. So that's how you would create a question and set up a class on Plickers. Pretty straightforward. So I'd also like to talk about how to set up a Nearpod presentation. You can upload a PowerPoint or you can create your own, and then you can add activities to that set. So if we go to nearpod.com, your library will come up and look like this. You can create your own lesson, and when you create your own lesson, you can upload a PowerPoint, so you can upload your files. You can add new slides if you'd like to start completely from scratch. I'm going to go back to my library and show you what it looks like once you've uploaded. So if we go to Edit, oh, it's already live, so that's why. So I'm going to go to Edit for this other one. And this is where you can add a slide, you can add a video, web content, or you can add an activity, which is really the formative assessment part of Nearpod. So they have quite a few options here. You can do an open-ended question where students actually have to type in. You can do matching pairs, so they can match like centroid with medians and orthocenter with altitudes, and different definitions if you want to do matching definitions. You can do a quiz, multiple choice, true or false. You could also have them draw something. So if you want to have them graph something, you can upload a picture and have them draw over it. You can also have them collaborate with other peers. So you would create groups and then they could add information. That's typically not as used in math classes as other classes. You can do a quick poll, fill in the blanks, or a memory test. So these are all good for different types of assessments that you would want to use. So for example, let's do a quiz. And when you add a quiz, you can enter your question, add options, as many options as you want, add a reference like a video or a picture. That would be helpful. So that's pretty much it for Nearpod and creating the actual presentation. I'll show you what an example presentation looks like in the next part. Okay, so the next one I'd like to go through is how to set up in Socrative, how to create a quiz or exit ticket, launch a quick question, kind of like Plickers, but a device is required, and then a space race kind of review game. So once you go to Socrative and you get logged in, your homepage will look like this, and you can click quiz, space race, or exit ticket depending on what you'd like to do. You can also do a quick question. So if I click on quick question, right now I have something going live, so it's going to ask me if I would like to stop the current activity, which is fine. I would say yes. So if you presented a question already, students just click type in this code on their screen, and then they can pick whatever answer choice from what you gave them. So you'd have to give them a question ahead of time, and then they just log in and this is what comes up. They just click their response. You could also do a true false instead, or you can click short answer and actually add the question, allow different responses. So if I did that, what's cool about this is you could start a vote. So students could vote on the best response, which might be nice for if you are trying to go over a definition of something and you want students to guess what the definition is, and then have students pick what they think the best definition was that of all the options. But if we go back to launch, you can also launch a quiz. So it asks you that every time because you can only do one quiz at a time. Okay, so I would pick from my previous one. So say I want to do my quadrilaterals pre-assessment, and I want to give them some instant feedback. So it would show question feedback, which you actually do when you create it. You can also make it student paced, teacher paced, or open navigation where students can go through on their own. So say we start that, it'll show their answers, show their names, and that's what will come up under the results tab. If we want to create a quiz, you go to quizzes, you can add a quiz, add quiz, create new, or you can import something you've already created, give it a name, and then you can add multiple choice. You can add pictures to your questions. You can add a true or false. Okay, because I didn't add anything here. Hi. Oh, I have to add my two answer choices. So let's say I wanted it true, false. And then I want to do a true, false, or a short answer. I can add those as well. And then you can save and exit. And since I didn't add anything, it won't let me. But when you actually go to your quizzes, you can edit them, you can go back to them if you've already created one, which is pretty nice. So that's it for Socrative in terms of actually doing the quizzes. But if we also want to do a review activity, you could also make the same quiz that you've had before a space race. And this is more of a game, so if I click that same assessment that I've had in the past, you can choose how many teams, so 5 teams. It can assign the students to a team, or you can have students choose their teams, and then you can decide whether you want to show question feedback, shuffle answers, shuffle questions, and then show their final score. And then you could start that activity, and it will put the students into those groups, and then they can just log in on their own. And as they go through, we see who finishes first, kind of more of a review game with the same quiz. So that's it for Socrative. And next I would like to talk about ClassKick. We're going to talk about how to upload a worksheet to ClassKick, or you can create your own through ClassKick, and how to make it live. So when you go to ClassKick, it'll bring you to your assignments, and you can also create a roster, and then this one's a sample roster, but once you've added a roster, you'll get a class code to share with your students. So when you're creating the assignment, you'll go to assignments, and then you'll go to this plus sign to have a new blank assignment, or you can create from a file, or you can browse some sample assignments that are out there. There aren't that many though, so you'd probably just want to create your own. So if you want to create from a file, you're going to choose either an image or a PDF. So if I want to add a systems of equations worksheet, I can also just pick if I want part of the worksheet. So if I just want them to do these first 2 problems, I would select that and then click next. And this is just a new question. Oops. And then you can add another. So if you want to go back and create different ones for a different slide for each problem, you could do it that way, or a different slide for 2 problems, like I'm doing now, but you can keep adding different slides. So let's say that's all I want to do. Then you would click finish, and it would come up with where you edit the assignment. So I would title this systems. So this is what the students actually see on the slides. You can assign points and actually go back through and take a look at the problem points. You can also assign a roster. So I'll just click the sample one. And then we can go and start and view student work. Students will type in this code at the top, and then it'll bring them to the 2 slides that they want to complete. So you can also view student work. So this is what you see, and it says you're helping the example student 1 on slide 1. So on this, I can actually type on student work to give them some help. So maybe like look for horizontal or vertical if they needed help. If they do need help, they'll raise their hand. So I'll show you an example of one I have that's already existing, and my sample roster. And when a student asks for help, it will come up on the side and tell you that they need help, and then you can go. You can also allow peer helpers, so students would see when other students need help, or if you don't want that, you can turn them off. Show students their grades. If you had multiple choice questions, it'll give that immediate feedback. So with ClassKick, that's how you would view the student work once you create the assignment. This is where you can actually monitor student progress as they're going through the assignment. So that's about it for ClassKick. There's not much to really go through, because you can add a worksheet, or you can also add more things, like if we go to create a blank assignment, if you go to the slide, you can edit, you can add a question, you can add a link, you can add a picture, you can add a voiceover, you can also add a multiple choice question. Oh, that's not the one. Yes, that's the multiple choice question, which is more for the ClassKick Pro. But you could also have them just circle their answer if you wanted to create that question. So that's it for ClassKick. So the last one that I'll go through is how to set up Delta Math, setting up a class, viewing problem types, and then creating an assignment. So when you go to Delta Math and you sign up, it'll bring you right to this page. So you can go to student data, view assignments. We'll go over that later on. But if you go to create and edit, you can create a standard assignment. You can also do test corrections, but I use it more for the assignments and the homework. But if you go to tools, that's where you'll manage students and classes, where you can actually add a class, so add a new period, or you can see your existing classes. If you go to create and edit, that's where you will find the assignments. So this is where you'll select the grade level. So right now everything's checked, but say I just want to look at the geometry standards, then this is what would come up. I can pick, maybe if I want to do an assessment on trig ratios, I could do identifying trig ratios and just take a look at what those problems look like. If it's not really what I want, I can go back and maybe I want Pythagorean theorem instead. And then when I'm actually adding them, you go to skills, and you can do a mixed problem, which means you could add multiple, and then you can set your due date and create the assignment. So once you have that, if you actually go to it, this is what it looks like on the student screen. You can test out a few problems by finding the third side, but if we go to the actual students, they actually have example problems to help students. So that goes in the corner, but I can also look at showing the solution, and this is what students would see after they finish the problem. So that's what it would look like on the student side. And then we'll go over student data for all of these in the next presentation.